And of course, just as I decide to hit live, my dog decides to bark downstairs. All right. Hello and welcome, Just a Family. I'm Melissa Krechler, and this is giving you something to talk about live TV. I'm an identity coach, spiritual teacher, and the host of this show. So today we're going to be talking about victim mentality. Sorry, I have something in my eye. Of course. We're going to be talking about victim mentality today, what it means, and how traumatic even victim mentality can be after you've been victimized. So our episode today has been sponsored by Phoenix Identity. In the description of this video, you can go and check them out at phoenixidentity.com. They've also linked, which is my company. So I've also linked my blog post on victim mentality. If you'd like to go and take a look at that. We're also offering a life crisis package. It is a 3-month coaching package for anybody who feels like their life is out of control and just going absolutely crazy. So again, for anybody watching or catching the replay, if you would like to be a guest on the show, please reach out. Please like and follow us on all our socials and sign up for our newsletter at justalivetv.com. All right. So today, my guest joining me is Philandis Stovall, and I hope I said that correctly. I'm going to hand it over for you to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Philandis Stovall. I am the CEO, founder of Ziggy Champion Kids. I'm an entrepreneur in every way. I'm also an NAACP author of a memoir, also a children's book. I do it all from business side to, behind the scenes, in front of the camera. So, yeah. Absolutely.
Well, I'm very excited to have you here. And I'm very excited to talk about this topic because victim talent, I can't even speak today. Victim mentality for me is a very important topic because I think that victim mentality, when people feel like they're a victim, it creates a lot of other issues in their life, right? And so I want to share a part of the blog that we did at Phoenix Identity. I searched Google when I first did the show or first did this blog. I had searched Google on what the definition of an actual victim is, like what the word victim means. And it says a person harmed, injured, or killed as a result of a crime, accident, or other event or action. Now, the word victimized means to make a victim of. And then I Googled victim mentality, and victim mentality is an acquired personality trait in which a person tends to recognize themselves as a victim of the negative actions of others and to behave as if this were the case in the face of contrary evidence such circumstances. Victim mentality depends on clear thought processes and attribution. Now, I want to start this episode by saying we in no way are shaming, blaming, putting guilt or judgment on anybody who feels like they are a victim. That is not what this episode is about. This episode is all about the individuals, ourselves included, because don't get me wrong, we can go there at times, right? Victim mentality is a mentality. It's a mindset. It is when you feel like you are constantly a victim, when anything anybody says or does puts you into a victim status, right? And there are some people who are consistently in that victim mentality, and it's a very negative space to be. And it causes a lot of very negative actions or reactions, very negative choices. What do you think about victim mentality?
I think it is. I think it's not taking responsibility for experiences or what you may have done to cause something, or even if you didn't cause it, but still just taking that accountability and that responsibility to not stay in that same place of whatever happened to you.
Yeah. For me, you're only a victim in the moment. Now, there are people who are we're victimized every day, whether that's with a word, whether that's with a thought or an action. For many of us, and when I say this, please don't come at me, but whether it's a small variation of being a victim or a large variation of being a victim, and that changes for everybody. Somebody inappropriately touching you or touching your butt, right? Or the fact that one of our viewers, wants us to pray for them so that they can find a good wife. That's totally great. But at the same time, we are, I totally lost my train of thought there, but victim mentality, we're a victim in the moment, right? We are only a victim in the moment. If somebody comes into your house and they, I know where I was going with that. So I apologize. I'm going to backtrack a little bit. So if somebody touches your shoulder, right? For some people, they may feel victimized, right? If they're living still in the fear of being abused or the fear of being assaulted or anything along those lines, that could be a very traumatic touch, right?
Right.
That's unprocessed victimization. Absolutely, that's unprocessed victimization. Victim mentality is when you're sitting in a room and somebody makes a comment not directed at you, not meant for you. There's no intention of it being towards you, but they take it within themselves. Right. I can't believe you just said that. Right? And that's victim mentality, is when you take a situation, an action, or a belief and perceive it to be offensive to you. That's victim mentality.
Right.
What are your experiences with victim mentality?
I've had a lot of experiences. The most recent one was due to like stalkers and hackers. And when people try to, use their narcissistic statistics or tactics rather, and flip the situation on who they wronged in order to, I guess, act like they don't know what they've been doing or are doing, and make the person who is actually the victim, like I've done nothing but, living my life, minding my business, and they take the situation and completely try to victimize themselves. And out of this whole situation, I know I've been getting wrong, been getting stalked, been getting slandered, and illegally access all of the above and below. And my thing was not to, like me, my whole thing is I just want my peace. I just wanted to stop. I don't want to stay in this place of constantly going through the same thing. Like, there's no one in their right mind wants to continue to deal with something like that. And it's like, I just wanted to be over and done with. I just want to move forward with my life. That's my mentality. But in the same sense, it's like I'm having to, it's like I'm the narc's tactic is to make me stay in this place where I'm constantly giving them a reaction, because they feed off of that. And so it can cause me, if I wasn't strong enough mentally and spiritually, it would cause me to stay in this place. And I'm just, I'm having to continue to shift. I'm shifting how I'm supposed to, but instead of how they want me to. Because like I said, when it comes to, they feed off of and thrive off of negative energy and certain reactions. So I'm having to in a sense, it's like you having to play mind games, and it's annoying at the same sense. And so I'm having to make sure I don't get to a place. Well, I know I'm not at that place. Like, I know I was wrong or whatever, but I'm just not allowing them to make me stay there. So yeah, I think that's my current experience. Another experience, I guess, just, past relationships, knowing that you were, it happens to everybody, life when it comes to certain situations, and knowing that people have to grow. Everybody's not ready for what you're ready for. So yeah, that's my experience when it comes to victim mentality. But it always rolls back sometimes, when the like I said, the person who have wronged you, they want to say, well, you did this and you did that, and that made me do it. Like, no, you did that because you want to do, do whatever you wanted to do. You're going to do that, or already doing that to begin with. Yeah. And so, yeah, sometimes it's not allowing people to put you in a victim mentality, if that's the thing as well. Yeah.
There's really three stages, or not three stages, but three variations to victim mentality. So the first one is, when you've been victimized and you haven't processed it, right? If you haven't, and there's no shame, blame, or judgment in that. If you've been a victim, and I'm going to backtrack for a second. Okay. When you're a victim, like if somebody broke into your house right now, you'd be a victim right now.
Right.
But as soon as they leave, you've been victimized. You're no longer a victim. At that moment, you're no longer a victim. You've been victimized. It's past tense, right? Being a victim is current. It's not past tense. It's current. Now, for people who are still in that victim mode, and it's very common if you've had a break-in, if your sense of security has been threatened by a break-in, by a fire, by anything, right? If your sense of safety and security has been breached, obviously that takes a while to process. There's, like I said, no shame, no blame in any of that, right? It does take time, but you're not a victim once it's over. Right. You become somebody who was victimized.
Right.
And right. Past tense.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So the first stage or the first variation of being, in a victim mentality is not having that process, right? And remaining a victim continuously after that, right? Is if you don't process it, you remain in a victim mentality. That's traumatic to your mindset, right? Like that's a very negative mindset to be in a victim mentality. The second one, and they're all very negative, but the second variation is when you do things or perceive things as to always be a victim, right? So if somebody says no to you, you act as if you're a victim. If somebody says something that's not intentionally meant to hurt you, you act as though you're a victim, right? That's a victim mentality. That's like the second variation of a victim mentality is taking absolutely everything somebody does and making yourself a victim.
Right.
Then there is the third variation of victim mentality that goes hand in hand with narcissists, where a narcissist will never take, and narcissism is truly rare. An actual narcissistic diagnosis is 1%. There are very few true diagnosed narcissists. We all have narcissistic tendencies. It's not right. Like we all have it, and that's totally normal, right? It's normal and normal. It's natural for us to have narcissistic tendencies. But somebody who is a narcissist, a true narcissist, who's living, will make themselves a victim or a savior. There is no in between. They take no blame. They take no accountability, no responsibility for their actions. They are completely and utterly either a victim or a savior. Now, I was raised by one of those, so I quite in-depthly know the victim mentality of a narcissist. So that one I'm very familiar on all of them, but that one is one that I'm very passionate about. But again, when we are truly victimized, when we are a victim, it's in the moment. Once that moment passes, we are no longer a victim. We are somebody, who has been victimized. That's when we start processing. That's when we start moving forward, and truly start that healing process, right? When you start the healing process of being a victim mentality, I've known people who some of my one of my closest friends, or a couple of my closest friends growing up, lived in a victim mentality. Everything was taken as an offense or as an affront, or taken internalized, and you couldn't say or do anything without triggering their victim mentality.
Oh, wow.
Right? Victim mentality is a mindset that is individualized as a person. We have a question. I don't mean to interrupt, but I want to ask if a narcissist can stop being a narcissist if they go through healing, or is it a trait of character that never changes? So it depends if the person is truly a narcissist. Like I said, it is 1% of the population that is truly diagnosed as a narcissist. And I do get that information from a clinical psychologist who did their dissertation on that topic. All of us have, because we all have narcissistic tendencies or narcissistic traits, there are ways to go through healing and go through awareness, self-identity, self-awareness, which is one of the things that our sponsor today goes through the entire identity process. It is possible to change the behaviors and the beliefs and the processes, but changing somebody's actual identity, where a narcissist, their identity is that of a narcissist. The truly diagnosed narcissist, it is a mental health condition that is, I'm not a medical professional, so I can't say that absolutely it could be done through the healing process, but for people who aren't true narcissists, there are ways to work around narcissistic tendencies, for sure. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, you're fine. I was listening.
So for you, you and I had talked about, situations. We all go through traumatic experiences. We all do. We all have situations. It's either events, things that people say, things that people do that make us feel victims, make us feel like victims, right? When I'm going to say this bluntly, when I lost my dog, right? And that seems very that seems very trivial, right? It seems very trivial. But when I lost my dog, I was a victim of death at that point. Not myself personally, but that was a situation that made me feel like a victim. There are situations, I have lots of situations that have made me feel like a victim, but I've never been one to wholeheartedly fall into that victim mentality, where I do know how to correct it, but I've always known how to correct it. So it's never been something that I've taken upon myself, but I have seen other people. So you were telling me about a situation where you could have been put into a victim mentality. Actually, I can explain one of them. When I was 17, I was forced into a career that I didn't want to be in. And it was by somebody that I loved and somebody that I was very close to. And they forced me into, again, a career path that I didn't want to be in. And when I left that situation, I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. I was victimized. I was basically trafficked. And in being trafficked, it was horrifying. I'm not going to say that there was a lot of, I definitely didn't have a lot of the experiences that other people did with it.
Right.
So it wasn't, for me, it wasn't absolutely horrific. And I know that there are a lot of situations where it can be, and it absolutely is. I wasn't forced into drugs. I wasn't forced into harming myself. But at the same time, I was forced into that career at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And with that being said, when I left that situation, I looked over my shoulder all of the time. I was terrified that they were going to get me. I was terrified to leave my house or go into any areas that I knew that they would be. And in that sense, I was in a victim mentality at that point because I had been victimized, right? And so the fear of that victimization was absolutely there. But I healed that, and I fought it, and I changed it into something bigger and something better for myself. I healed that. But at the same time, I could have stuck there. I could have become an absolute recluse. I could have never left my home. I could have, any comment or any behavior from somebody else could have put me right back into that victim mentality. And I could have fed off of it. And I could have spent the rest of my life doing absolutely nothing because I was too terrified in that victim mentality.
Right. You could have turned, like, anything negative, you could have been an additional negative to that. And instead you chose to make it a positive.
Yep.
With your mindset and your mentality. So
yep. And that's the thing. Now I'm, that's 20 years ago.
Oh wow.
22 years ago.
Yeah.
And now I'm an advocate for it. Now I'm not an advocate. Like I don't go out of my way to be an advocate for that, but I do understand the mentality behind it. I do, I can speak to people having various different, I was molested as a child. I was forced into prostitution in my teens. I was, there's a lot of things that I've done in my lifetime that have made me mentally stronger, but also made me more aware, right? I don't look at sex workers the same way other people do.
Right.
I don't.
Right. Because you don't know the circumstances behind, you don't know the full circumstances behind that person or their situation. So you can't be a judge. Be a judge and look down on somebody because you don't know the fullness of it. And half of the people that judge, they've either sometimes the people that judge be the ones who do the soliciting. And they try to do things to keep the spotlight off of them.
Yeah.
So you have to be conscious of that.
I read an article today that was posted a long time ago. I don't know why. I was scrolling Facebook. You know how Facebook has the watch, right? So I was scrolling Facebook's watch, and I watched Karaoke in the Car, is it?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so they had, is it Mesos or Mysos? I haven't actually heard the name. It's with Offset, Quora. So Offset is actually Cardi B's husband.
Right.
And so I was going through, and then I Googled him, and because I always do that, I'm weird. I like to Google people. So I Googled Offset, and I thought that he was Cardi B's husband. And so then I clicked on Cardi B, and I was looking at news, like just random stuff about her, right? And I found an article that was done about, 40 facts about Cardi B, or whatever that looks like, right? 40 facts about Cardi B. And
Right.
so she's been very open and honest on the fact that she was a stripper.
Right.
You look at somebody like Cardi B, who is a multi-million-dollar powerhouse of a woman, who is in the spotlight, in the media, who went from being, you know, somebody who worked in a market to this absolutely amazing woman, an artist. And,
Right.
you know, people could judge her for being a stripper. They could judge her for everything that she's gone through, but
Right.
she doesn't. And she's been very vocal about it. And she's very authentic about her past, right? She
Right.
didn't allow that. She wasn't a victim in that. She chose that because at the time she needed to, or so it says. I've never actually talked to her, so.
Right.
But like, there are people who choose to be in the situations that they're in because it's better than what they're living. There are people who choose to do things or say things. Victim mentality, in a lot of ways, depending on the variation, is a choice.
Right.
It is absolutely a choice. And I don't, you know, we have a choice going further. If you've been victimized, right? So let's say, again, if your house gets broken into, and at that moment you're a victim, once it's over, you've been victimized, right?
Right.
Let's say you didn't have an alarm, right? Let's say you didn't have an alarm, or, you know, you left your doors unlocked or what have you, right? You learned something from that. Okay, maybe I'm going to make sure my doors are locked, triple check that all my doors and windows are locked. Maybe I'm going to install a security system with a camera. Maybe I'm going to, you know, buy a dog and train it to protect our family, whatever that looks like, right?
Right. You can be attentive more, be attentive to your surroundings. Like, there are people who literally will watch, you know, you all day, every day, or like I said, have illegal access so they can listen to, you know, learn your routine. So you have to be aware and not naive to like it's happening in this world. It's like, not that, you know, you want to go through life, you know, saying, oh, I have to stay on my tippy toes all day, every day. But you need to be aware. There are good humans, you know, and there are people that are evil and do cruel and mean things to others. So you just have to be aware and attentive to your surroundings, the people around you. Like, what times am I coming in? Like, what time of the day did that happen? You know, the break-in. But, you know, because it may be a sign that that possibly showed you that it was something of that nature could have happened or was going to or may happen in the future. So you just have to, as I say, go through life being aware too, and attentive to not only yourself but to others and just the things that happen in this world, because it's happening too often to not be aware. So you can finish what you said. I'm sorry.
For everybody watching or catching the replay, when I say that you have a choice, I'm not saying that I would never be the type of person to say that they asked for it or anything along those lines, right? I don't care what you're wearing. I don't care where you are. I don't care what you're doing. Right. Yes, we put ourselves in some situations that we probably shouldn't, but you can never control somebody else's actions. You can never control somebody else's thoughts or beliefs or anything along those lines. You can only control yourself, right? So remembering that victim mentality is a mindset, being a victim is not. Being a victim is being a victim to somebody else's choice, action, or situation. It is not something that you automatically choose. Now, obviously, if you are speeding down the street and you get hit or you hit somebody else, no, if you get hit, well, maybe you shouldn't have been speeding. I'm not saying the other person was at fault, but you know what I mean? There's always, if you're walking across the road and you're not watching where you're going and there's no stop sign, you know, you've put yourself in a very dangerous situation.
Right. That
Instead of,
yeah, it's called like those things like that happen. It's called like a cause and effect, pretty much.
mm-hmm.
In a way, certain things are cause and effect.
Yep. And I don't care whether you're spiritual or not, people. So I won't push my spirituality on you. Right. This isn't a spiritual thing. We all have gut instinct. Our gut instinct is our intuition, right? It's our intuition, our higher knowing, our sixth sense, our gut instinct, our mother's instinct, whatever you want to call it. We all are intuitive beings, right? Whether you are spiritual or not, we have those gut feelings, right? When you know who you are and you're living authentically to yourself and you know your body and you know your mind and you're in that healthy place, even if you're not in that healthy place, your body will give you signs, right? If you are about to walk down an unlit alley, when you have this street just to save a couple minutes or even save another 10 minutes, and your body is going and if you start to shiver, if you start getting the shakes, if you get this creepy feeling over you, if you feel like somebody's watching you, mm-hmm. your body has an internal danger system.
Right.
When you are living in a victim mentality, when you are living in an emotionally unstable or negative place, you're not listening to those, right?
Right.
Now, again, I will never do the shame or blame game. And this is not shaming victims, so don't think it is. But we have done many episodes, and one of the things that keeps coming up is that if you are in an abusive relationship where you keep calling in people who are not good for you, mm-hmm. what are your emotions like? I'm not saying you're purposely calling them in because it's unconscious. It is subconscious. It's under that level. But when you are living in an emotionally unstable place or an emotionally unhappy place or a negative victim mentality place, you're going to do and say things that aren't for your greater good.
Right.
Right? When you meet Mr. Tall, Dark, and Handsome, Disney told us we needed Mr. Tall, Dark, and Handsome. If you meet Mr. Prince Charming, Tall, Dark, and Handsome, and you're not in a good place, you're not going to feel that there's some red flags there.
Right.
You're not going to feel those, right? You're not going to feel, well, you're not going to do any research. You're not going to, they're trying to pass a law right now that says that you can go to a police station, search up and have them search your potential partner's name to see if there's anything you need to be worried about.
Oh, wow. That's good.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, it's part of confidentiality. And on the one hand, yes. On the one hand, no, right? You don't want to just be searching somebody up for no good reason, right?
Right.
But at the same time, they're trying to make it easier for us. Now,
yeah.
I've talked to many women who have been in abusive relationships, and their self-worth is not the greatest. Their confidence not the greatest. It's a process. And when somebody chooses a victim, a lot of the time, not all, but a lot of the time they will pick somebody they know is vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, that's kind of like what the narcs do. They go to someone or they go to people who have a good heart and caring. Like they try to go to that person and kind of like just try to feed different things, knowing in reality, it's never going to happen. It's, just try to feel this person like fill them with like illusions. And I want to say not even half truths, but yeah, sometimes it's half truths or no truths. So, and that's again from my experience, or certain experiences too. And the thing is not allowing, not allowing that. Another situation I wanted to share was when my son passed away from cancer. He was 10. And, you know, after, going through the years of him, have transitioned, you really reflect on a lot of things, as far as what you could have done, should have done different, or now that you learn more information, whether it's mentally, knowledgeably, educationally wise, or did I say spiritually? And you look at things kind of like, maybe I shouldn't have, done that, or maybe we should have done this a little differently, or it's just always something because you wish your loved one was still here. But in that, being a caregiver and a mother, I could have made myself a victim. But instead I've chosen to, I know that everybody living has to die. We're not meant to be here forever. And like you said, I don't want to put my spirituality on anyone else, but I know that I will see my son again. And then knowing that I'm okay. I'm okay, sharing our story. I'm okay. Like you said, being an advocate for cancer families and cancer parents as well. And also cancer siblings, because my daughter, she was a sibling of a cancer patient. She goes through her, emotional states even after, his passing. She was going through it as well when he was alive, and trying not to, because sometimes I found that she tries to victimize herself, like she thinks that she's the cause of why her brother is no longer here. So keeping her out of that victim mentality as well. So that's another situation I wanted to share.
There's people in similar situations, not the same, obviously, but there's people who have been victimized. Now, you were victimized by loss, and losing a child is never easy. It is absolutely traumatizing. And for you and your daughter to go through not just the loss of your son, but also leading up to that loss, right? The cancer diagnosis, all of the treatments, all of the things that you had to go through. That's traumatic for both of you, right?
Right.
What can end up happening with that is you can remain in, so again, the variations, right? One variation of victim mentality is staying in there and not processing and healing, right? You'll never truly heal from losing a child, but at the same time, you can use that pain and you can utilize it to grow and learn and find strength, right? And be that advocate. But there's other victim mentality variations where, my child passed away and I need funds, or I need money, and then GoFundMe's and people trying to benefit off of that loss, right? And trying to, there's a lot of people who do that, right?
I come across that too, where not necessarily me, but people did try to use that moment of my son's passing, my vulnerability state, was asking for money. So and then trying to victimize me making me seem like I was wrong, because I'm like, no, this is my time to try to grieve and, cope with the passing of my son. And I still haven't had that chance to grieve his passing. I'm just been mentally strong, I guess, because I've always been understanding of, on the spiritual side. I've always understood. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much, because like I said, I don't want to go too deep on that, but I've always been understanding when it comes to that.
Yeah. And I'm
but
not saying
it's amazing what people do.
Not everybody who starts a GoFundMe, or not everybody who asks for help when they experience being a victim, not everybody is in that victim mentality. If you are struggling, you have every right to ask for help.
Right.
What I mean is the people who will use that story repeatedly over and over and over again, not just to get what they need, but to get fame, to get fortune, to get recognition, to, you know what I mean? There's a difference between writing a book about loss and, saying, oh, my child passed away, and, and I need all of this. And just like, there is a difference. And like I said, no blame or shame for people who truly need help, but there are people who will use that situation. Look at how many TV shows have we seen where parents make their children sick just so that they get the attention. Right? That actually happens. That's a victim mentality, right? It's a psychiatry victim mentality, but it is still a variation of victim mentality. Then you've got another way people are victimized is, and this is going back to people who are not happy where they're at or happy with themselves, people who are vulnerable. You look at how many scams, catfishing scams are online, right? I had a guy message me yesterday and go, hi, you're beautiful. What are you? I'm like, block, just block, right? There are a lot of people who not fall for that, but are more vulnerable to that because they're starving for attention, because they're having issues, or they're not capable of, finding love for themselves, or they feel unworthy. So any attention that they get, they take. There's, you know what I mean? There's so many different variations, or so many different situations where we can find ourselves in a victim mentality. There's really negative ones. There's ones that are conscious. There's ones that are subconscious. But sorry, my cat has decided to lie at my elbow on my desk, of course, all over my paperwork. And see, I could be a victim about that and go, why do you have to do that? No, I'm kidding. But I think, okay, so we've talked about the different variations of victim mentality, are some of our experiences with a victim mentality. How do you think people can overcome victim mentality or change victim mentality?
Just like I said at the beginning, certain things, depending on the situation, taking responsibility and the accountability. Another thing is work on mindset. Everything comes down to your mindset, your growth, on what you want for yourself. And not, because when you have a victim mentality too, that means that opposite person or people are basically ruling or running or dictating what is to occur or not to occur in your life. And it's about taking your power back, even after something has happened. Things happen to us every day, knowingly and unknowingly. So it's just, like we said, it's a, spiritual thing, to knowing also that regardless of what happens to you, that you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would definitely say, like I said, a mindset thing. It's the growth, wanting to grow and not be stuck in the past. Because I mean, if I, growing up, we've always had a really good life overall. And, I remember I shared on another interview, I was at a football game. I was young, probably maybe between 5 and 7 years old. And I was a child, and it was other children at this football game going to the concession stand. And there was this lady, I didn't know her. I was hanging with the other kids, the other kids had bumped her and everything. I'm just looking, right? I'm the one, I was like, you all need to say, excuse me, y'all. I'm kind of like the mama of the group, right? And so she turned around and looked at me like she gave me such an evil stare. Like she eyed me. This is an adult woman. I'm a child. Like, I didn't bump her. I didn't anything. I'm trying to calm down the situation. She looked me up and down with her eyes, like you could feel the heat type of eyeing down. And she was like, it was like this spirit just had come out of her. Like, she was like, I cannot stand you. I don't like you. And she said some other things, but I was just like, as a child, you're like, what can you say? Like, you just know, like, you didn't do anything. She see you trying to calm the situation down, saying you all need to, apologize or whatever, but this person, this spirit or whatever is coming at you. And so that's just one example. But out of all of the things that I've gone through, I could have easily chose the victim mentality. Yeah. But I chose to take those situations and be like, okay, I just know once I sense this type of person or spirit or whatever, okay, this is not meant for me. I just stay away. I could have easily, like I said, been, as they say, traumatized. Like, and that's another thing. Like, I don't believe in allowing every little thing that happens to me, and this just me personally, I don't believe in allowing everything negative, every wrong or misfortune or whatever that happens to me, whether directly or indirectly, traumatize me. Like, I think that's like this new age generation thing. I don't know, everybody's hurt, everybody's traumatized. Like, I don't know, everybody's trying to heal. I don't know, to me it's like this trend thing, and it's, not saying that people don't need to heal or not traumatized by whatever life experiences and situations. I just don't believe that everything has to be so devastating or traumatic to your life. It's like real events, such as, a passing of a loved one, or breaking into an entering, or just a car accident where you could have, lost your life or been in a hospital. It's other things that's really devastating and really happening. Or just like the illegal accessing, the stalking, like those are real things. But to me, you can still choose what you allow to traumatize you. you know.
Well, yeah. And we're allowed to be traumatized by anything.
Right, exactly. Like, I don't, to me, it's such a trend right now. I don't know. It's like a trend thing, and I don't agree with that.
You reminded me of an experience I had not that long ago. And it's actually it's one of the variations of victim mentality. So I was walking through Walmart with my mother-in-law, and my two daughters.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother-in-law and youngest daughter were pushing the cars. And they were behind my oldest daughter and I. And my oldest daughter and I were walking down one of the big sections of Walmart, the main walkways, right? So we're walking down one of the main walkways of Walmart, and all of a sudden, this woman comes walking towards us, and we're all on one side of the aisle. Like, you always stick to one side of the aisle, right?
Right.
So she's coming up the same side. And instead of moving over from my older daughter and I, we have to split apart. She walks in between my daughter and I, and then goes around my mother-in-law and youngest daughter with the cart. And so I'm like, okay.
Right.
And then my mother-in-law walks up to me, and I was like, did you see that? And she's like, yeah. And then we keep walking. All of a sudden, my oldest daughter turns to me and she said, she hit me. I said, what? Like, what? What did you just say? She goes, yeah, she hit me with her shoulder while she was walking in between us.
What?
And I said, oh, why didn't you tell me this sooner?
Right.
She goes, well, I don't know. And I said, but honey, you got to tell me this stuff sooner, because I would have ripped her a new one, right? Like,
right.
Mama Bear's fierce here, right? Like,
right.
we Mama Bears got to stick together.
Exactly, right.
Right? Now, if I had actually gone up to her and been like, excuse me, you need to apologize to my daughter, right? Which is what I would have done. I would have said, you need to apologize to my daughter. If I'm trying to teach her manners and respect, then you need to do the same.
Right.
Right? And so, but if I had done that, she was most likely, and I'm energetic, I'm a psychic intuitive medium, so I feel that energy.
Right.
If I had done that with her, she would have turned around and put the blame on my daughter.
Right.
She wouldn't have taken responsibility for that, right?
Yeah.
So that's victim mentality right there. She would have made herself the victim. Right. Yet she did the victimization. Right? She victimized my daughter.
Exactly.
And that's not okay.
It's not. It's really not. That's exactly what we were just saying earlier. Like how people try to flip that. They know that they have done the victimization and they try to flip it. Some even try to do the blame game.
Mm-hmm.
Try to do the blame game and flip it. So it's just, yeah. Exactly. That's amazing.
Yeah. But and that's the thing. Pardon me?
I say if you had known sooner.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have a tendency though. People try to argue with me and it doesn't work because I don't argue.
That's me.
I don't argue. Yeah. My husband. My husband bought my mother-in-law a shirt, and it said, what did it say? Oh, I loved the saying because it was just funny. I'm not arguing with you. What is the saying? I am not arguing. I'm just explaining why I'm right.
Right.
Right. So I don't argue. Now, if I'm wrong, if I'm proven wrong, right, and I only argue when I wholeheartedly believe that I'm right.
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 Yeah. Yeah.
But I've
When it's
also got
worth it, though, yeah, it's like you have to really
Yeah.
see the work of fighting for something.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I don't argue to change somebody else's opinion. I don't
Right.
argue to change your belief. I don't argue to prove you wrong, right? Now at the same time, oh, I could go into a whole nother episode with that topic. So, but again, you know, I wholeheartedly believe that she owed my daughter an apology.
Yeah,
because there is no reason why she should have shoulder checked my daughter.
Yeah. Yeah.
No reason.
For that.
Yeah. So now it's like, you know, I could have walked over to her and said something. She was a few aisles away, but I could have, but I chose not to, right? I chose to be the bigger person and go whatever and just keep walking, right?
Yeah.
But it is people will do things.
Mm-hmm.
They'll actually do things.
Yeah.
And yet make themselves the victim.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. Yeah.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to add before we get going?
Oh, I've enjoyed today's conversation, and I'm pretty sure like we can dig a lot deeper and talk a lot more.
Yeah.
So, but I truly enjoyed this. Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for joining me. This is, you know, I don't bring these topics to shame or blame anybody. For anybody who's watching, even for yourself, that's not our purpose, right? Our purpose is awareness. Number one, self-awareness. This show is all about personal development. It's all about taking accountability for your life, taking accountability for where you're at, what you want, where you're going. And that's what we talk about: diversity. We talk about the hard topics like victim mentality. Tomorrow's episode, we're talking about surviving sexual assault. And we talk about the hard topics. And that's what we do, because that's the whole point of the show, right? Is to bring awareness to the topics people don't want to talk about, but should be, because we're not alone. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me today, as my cat has decided that she's gonna sit in front of me for the end of the video. Go ahead.
And I was gonna say, just knowing, like in another recent interview that I've done, just knowing life happens, and it happens to everyone. Like no one is excluded from life and the things that happen within that. So once you understand that, and you know, people understand that they know, and really get in tune with, like we said, self-awareness, the surroundings, in and out, knowing it's okay. Nobody's perfect. Nobody living. we won't be perfect until the day that we die. Knowing that it's okay to make mistakes. Knowing that it's okay. I'm not always right. It's okay
to not be okay.
Right. And it's okay to have different perspectives on life. But just understanding and valuing others' outlooks. So, but yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you again. I really appreciated it. To our Just a Family, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you would like to connect with Philandis, you can do so. I've tagged her, or I've put in the description her Facebook page, Even Through the Storm, I believe it's called. And that is for your book that you wrote on, you know, overcoming what you've experienced, or going through what you've experienced. So if you want to check that out, go and check that out. Link in the descriptions. If you'd like to connect with either myself or Philandis, you can do so through those links in the descriptions. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, you can do so at Just Alive TV. We're always looking for guest speakers, people who want to share their stories, how they overcame their struggles. We're always open to featured topics as well. If there's a topic that you would like to see on the show, then absolutely reach out to us at justalivetv.com. Like and follow us on all our social platforms, and make sure that you join our newsletter to see what's up and coming. So thank you again. I really appreciated your time.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. All right, Just a Family. This is Melissa signing out. I will see all of you on the next episode. Bye.
Bye.